Greetings all, Shane Bruce, Restomod Daisy, and today we've got a gun I've been looking for a long time. You never know what you'll find on the internet, you never know what you'll find in YouTube, and occasionally you'll run across a reference or a comment that indicates there might be a basket case BB gun that might be available for trade. This is the case with this particular piece. This is a Daisy Model 32 Buzz Barton Special, first year of production. And it was previously in the possession of Russ over at Daisy Lever Gun Fun, another YouTube site. I'll put a link in the description below. He's got some really interesting builds, wild builds that I wouldn't try. But he also had this basket case, Buzz Barton. And we've been conversing about that for a while, but finally got a deal done. I had some stocks he wanted. He had this gun I wanted, so the magic happened and it showed up here. Now we know it's a number 195 Model 32 because that's what the tag on the gun said, and everybody knows guns do not lie. Now I can verify that it is a 1932 production model because you'll see in just a moment when we take it apart that it's got some oddities on the inside that you just don't find in post-1932 guns of the day. So before we rip it apart, let's take a peek at it up close. On the Buzz Bartons, the pertinent data was printed on the scope itself. Kind of funny since it's not a permanent part of the gun. It can come off and go back on. As you can see, this is a Model 195 Daisy, and you can see it was made in Plymouth, Michigan. As a 1932 production gun, I am theorizing that this gun was developed and designed to be used with lead BBs, and we'll show you why in just a minute. So let's take a look at the receiver. It is a crusty bad boy. I'm not sure exactly what all this surface texture is. I know there is quite a bit of rust in there, but there also looks to be quite a bit of paint. The gun was blued originally at the factory. Obviously somebody has gone to great lengths to put some really tough paint on this and wasn't shy about it. I mean, quite a bit of paint. I don't know how many layers are on there. We might do a cross section when I'm stripping it and see just how many colors we come up with, but it's really thick. It's got a little bit of a bump in the barrel shroud here, a little dent, not uncommon. And then we go down to the muzzle where the Buzz Barton front sight is at, and you'll notice that this is not a top feed like a Model 195 would be. This is a side feed, and that's another indicator that this is a Model 32 first year production. Now, as with all Daisies, when it's time to take them apart, it's a pretty simple process. Pull the stock bolt, pull the trigger bolt, pull the lever bolt, take the scope off, get the spring anchor out, extract the plunger assembly and the air tube. But before we do that, I want to show you something really kind of unique about this shot tube. As I noted, you've got a side tap feed. It's the older style. You can see the thin plates. And here's what makes it kind of weird. You give it a quarter turn, and that opens up that feed trap. And you wiggle it around a little bit, and it just pops out. Now, see how that this muzzle has a bump on it, a little bump out. You see it right there? That actually locks in to the end of the muzzle. See, there's a divot cut there. Can you make that out? Mm-hmm. That's how it locks the air tube, or the shot tube, in place in the gun. That interior piece.
Where's my hand?
Yeah. And you'll notice that the front sight is a blade inside that little, let me get this angled right.
Where are you going?
I'm going here.
All right.
I want to show you the front sight.
Oh my God,
it sits inside the front sight tube, the sight itself.
Yeah, it makes it the sight. Right.
And that is a critical part of making the telescopic sight work, that little dot down there. Now let's take a look at this shot tube. As we saw in the recent video, this shot tube does not have any cuts for a retention spring. It has no holes for a retention spring, no holes to hold the retention spring, no mounting holes for a retention spring. So it's a good bet that this was built for lead BBs. Here's the big kick. It's not threaded. There's no threading on this. You merely push the gun, or push the shot tube into the gun. It slides through the abutment washer and the abutment seal, and this little guy up here is what locks it in place. It's a big departure from a standard bottle cap that has a threaded attachment point and has a BB retention spring. And this is set up for steel BBs. This was set up for lead BBs. And it's posing a problem for me at the moment because I can't get it to shoot a steel BB because they will double or triple feed or just roll out the end of the muzzle. I did get the gun running, but it's just not running right yet. So that's a cool thing, and that supports the concept that it's a Model 32 195, first year of production. So now, we've gotten the exciting stuff, the spice stuff out of the way. Let's get this gun took apart. So step one, we're going to pull the scope off the top. Take the top stock screw out. This is not the factory stock screw. It did not have it with the gun. Pull that little foot out of the bump here on the receiver, and poof, voila, our magical scope dismounts. I'm going to show you this down here. It's just a piece of metal.
Oh, jeez, that's horrible. Hold on. Do your light. Hold on. Yeah.
Can you see in there?
Yeah, a little tiny dot at the end.
A little tiny, not at the end, right at the middle.
Sir, use the pointed light.
Like that? No, that's not working. Anyway, it's a metal disc with a hole, and it sits about halfway down the tube, and that is the Telescopic Sight. There's no glass in there, but it is an optical illusion. When you throw the gun up, it looks like it's a telescope. Oddity, but it does work. Now, here's another oddity. These tubes normally were left in blue steel. This one looks like it's been plated. I can't swear to God it was plated, but it sure looks like it was plated. But it does have the appropriate roll stamp, so I do believe it's a factory daisy part, which is kind of important. All right, next step. I'll flip it over on the back side, pull the nuts if there are nuts to be pulled, and there are. This is an old gun, old receiver, and most of the threads on the receiver have been stripped out. These are not the original bolts. The original bolts, 2 of them came with the gun. They're up here, and they are what you expect to see, a slotted tip, not a Phillips tip, but they're in poor shape, and there was only 2 of them. So I decided to go ahead and sub in some new parts. So let's get our stock bolt extracted. Come on, come on. You want to come out of there. We'll extract the buttstock. Now the buttstock has an aftermarket trigger return spring. That is not the factory spring, but it did not have one. And you will need a factory trigger spring for the gun to work. Here we see that the lever bolt is obviously stripped out, so it just pops out. There is another oddity. You'll note the profile on the nose of this particular level. It's got a really irregular hook on it. Much different looking from a 11140 cast iron lever or the current high pivot lever. So this also supports the contention that this is a 1932 version gun, your year model gun, because that's an older lever style. All right, let's pull the trigger out. Now this trigger is irritating. Oops, this trigger is also armed. Hang on.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
What is really irritating about this trigger, it has a unique ability to trap your finger and pinch you right there. See how it's pinching? It's pinching me. Pinching me, and it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. That is a design flaw. But that is what the factory gave you to start with. So this one we'll pull out and get out of the way. And then we'll go over to the vise and fight with the spring.
Oh, your favorite pastime.
See, that's such a different trigger from the standard steel trigger on the guns we usually work with.
Oh man, too bad you don't have like an example next to this.
Well, you know, oddly enough,
You do?
I could get one.
Oh, wow. I'll give you another 5 seconds before I say cut it.
Oh, here's one to confuse you further. Tell me what trigger that goes to.
I have no idea. I don't pay that much attention to these videos.
All right, well, maybe I got a plastic trigger.
I'm not your viewing audience.
There's a plant. No, that won't work. So.
No. Oh, my God.
Anyway,
I'm not your viewing audience.
Trust me on this. It's different. It's different.
It's different.
All right.
That's what they all
say. All right, so now we're going to have to fight with the spring anchor and the compression spring. Now, when the gun showed up here, it was all in pieces. This is the original mainspring that came in the gun. This is the original compression cup that came in the gun. As you can see, it's a leather system, totally shot. There was no abutment washer in the gun. It was blown apart. I tried it first with a 499 mainspring and got a BB out of the barrel, but it only went about 15, 20 feet. So what it's packing right now is a Red Ryder mainspring. And I do not believe a cobalt would fit. I think we'd run into spring bind issues with a cobalt. So, same process, get her locked in the vise, gingerly put our little probe down here, find ourselves a good spot where we're not going to nick ourselves, and give her a shove and see if we can get the spring to... Oh, it fell right out. How polite.
Nice.
Now the question is where to go.
Oh, I see it. Hold on.
Oh, okay, grab that.
You got it, guys.
Well, you can't ask for more than that.
Good eyeballs, man.
No fight that time.
Appreciate them while you got them.
Now,
all right.
check this out. Because this is also kind of weird. Check this plunger assembly. Look at that. The engagement plate sticks way down past the back.
All right, I will say that is weird. I recognize that as an oddity.
Is that strange? And that's a Red Ryder spring. Top hat leather style seal, that's what's in the gun right now. And it's running about 250 feet a second, as currently configured. I don't think I'll be able to get it to go any faster, in all honesty. If we tried a Cobalt 327, I got a feeling we'd run into spring bind before the plate engaged the sear to lock the gun so you could fire it. Just don't think there's enough space on this receiver, or this plunger tube. And when you compare it was, you know, it's kind of hard to believe this gun ran at all, but it did go tink tink. Anyway, so now it's all apart. It's been thoroughly cleaned out on the inside. I'll show you the guts real quick. You can see somewhat down in there.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
Yeah, and then we've done the same treatment process on this end to try and knock the internal.
We've been on that end enough.
Okay,
yeah.
to knock some of the rust and some of the dust and some of the corrosion on there. So that is disassembly. Now reassembly will be the same process, but honestly, kids, I don't want to put it back together right now because the next step for me is going to be to try to do something with this surface finish.
Oh, then don't.
Well, then I guess we won't.
All right. Well.
And also, we gotta, if we keep this, which I just can't see me doing that, but man, that is one hell of a crack. But it is the factory stock, and one of the few things that identified these these Buzz Barton Specials is a paper label that was here, but of course it's a paper label. It ain't there no more. So there you go. That's how you take apart a Daisy number 195 Model 32 Buzz Barton Special. A gun from way back in the way back with the lead BB shot tube, the diminutive mainspring, and the Pinch-O-Matic 9000 trigger. That little notch right there, I swear I've shot this gun maybe 25 times. It bit me at least half the time. That's all we've got for you tonight, kids. We'll do another episode on this gun later after I get the steel work done, get the surface finish done, and figure out what I'm going to do with the buttstock. So that's all we've got for you tonight, kids. This is Shane Bruce with Restomod Daisy, signing off.